Every single day, millions of British parents open a fridge, reach for a small, colourful pot, and hand it to their child, believing they are doing something good. The packaging is cheerful, the branding is warm, the marketing speaks of calcium, of goodness, of growth. But hidden inside some of the UK's most trusted children's yoghurt brands are ingredients that nutrition researchers, food campaigners, and independent scientists have raised serious concerns about. Ingredients that don't appear on television adverts, ingredients that many parents have never heard of. What you are about to see isn't a fringe conspiracy. This is what's written in small print on the back of products sitting in your fridge right now. We've investigated 7 of the most popular children's yogurt brands sold in UK supermarkets. We ranked them, we broke down what's inside them, and what we found will make you look at that cheerful little pot very differently. Stay with us, because the brand at the top of this list may be the one your child eats every single day. But before we get into it, I need you to do something. If this information is valuable to you, if you think people deserve to know what they're actually feeding their kids every single day, click the like button right now. Subscribe and share this video with someone who deserves to know the truth. Let's get into it. 7. Munch Bunch. Walk into almost any UK supermarket and you'll find them Munch Bunch yogurt pots, decorated with cartoon animals, stacked in the dairy aisle at eye level, at child eye level. That is not an accident. Munch Bunch is manufactured by Nestlé, one of the largest food corporations in the world. In the UK market, it has positioned itself as a children's calcium staple for decades. Generations of British children have eaten it. Many parents who grew up with Munch Bunch now buy it for their own children without a second thought. That familiarity is precisely the problem. A standard Munch Bunch fromage fraise pot, the 47g serving, marketed specifically for toddlers and young children, contains around 8 to 9 grams of sugar per pot. To put that in context, health guidance from organisations including Action on Sugar has consistently identified high-sugar children's dairy products as a significant contributor to early childhood tooth decay and appetite dysregulation. The NHS recommends that children aged 4 to 6 consume no more than 19 grams of free sugars per day. A single Munch Bunch pot, if finished, and children almost always finish them, can account for nearly half of that entire daily allowance. But sugar isn't the only concern here. Critics also point to the use of concentrated fruit juice in some Munch Bunch varieties as a sweetener. Food campaigners argue that fruit juice concentrate functions biochemically almost identically to added sugar, but because of how labelling regulations work, it allows manufacturers to avoid prominent placement on the ingredients list. Munch Bunch markets itself as containing no artificial colours or preservatives, and on that narrow claim, it is technically correct. But nutrition experts warn that the absence of artificial additives does not make a product nutritionally sound, particularly when the sugar content remains this high. For a brand that positions itself as a childhood staple, the numbers tell a more complicated story. But if Munch Bunch surprised you, what comes next may concern you even further. 6. Onken Kids. Onken has cultivated a reputation in British households as the more considered, more wholesome choice. It feels less corporate, less flashy, the kind of yoghurt brand that seems to belong in a home where parents read ingredient labels, which makes what's inside the Onken Kids range all the more surprising. Onken Kids yogurts, particularly the fruit-flavoured varieties, contain modified maize starch. This is a processed carbohydrate used as a thickening agent to give the yogurt a creamier texture than its natural composition would allow. It is not inherently dangerous. But nutrition researchers argue it has no place in a product sold to children as a dairy health food, and it adds to the ultra-processed profile of the product. The term ultra-processed food, or UPF, has moved from academic journals into mainstream health discourse in the past several years. In a landmark study published in Times the BMJ, researchers found that high consumption of ultra-processed foods was associated with increased risk of a range of adverse health outcomes. While no single food can be blamed in isolation, products that contain multiple industrial ingredients, thickeners, flavorings, juice concentrates are classified under the UPF framework. Onken Kids products frequently carry that classification. There is also a labeling concern. Some varieties in the range display front-of-pack health descriptors, language that implies nutritional benefit, whilst containing sugar levels that nutrition campaigners describe as wholly inconsistent with those claims. The Advertising Standards Authority has, in broader contexts, taken action against misleading health claims in children's food marketing. But many campaigners argue the regulatory framework still does not go far enough. Onken has built its brand on trust, and for some families, that trust may not be fully warranted. The next brand on our list has become one of the fastest growing names in the children's yogurt space. What's inside may explain why children find it so impossible to stop eating. 5. Müller Little Stars. Müller is a dominant force in the UK dairy market, and Müller Little Stars, their children's range, has been crafted with precision. Precision not just in manufacturing, but in appeal. The flavours are intense, the sweetness is high, and food scientists who study children's palatability argue that this is not coincidence. Products engineered to sit at a high sweetness threshold train young palates to expect that level of stimulation, making plainer, genuinely nutritious foods feel bland by comparison. This is a concern that goes beyond what's on the label. On the label, Müller Little Stars yogurts contain natural flavourings, a term that sounds reassuring, but is, in fact, almost entirely unregulated in terms of disclosure. Under current UK food labelling law, manufacturers are not required to specify what those natural flavourings are. They are permitted to group them under a single term. Critics argue this allows companies to add complex flavour compounds to children's food without parents ever knowing the specifics. Some varieties of Müller Little Stars also carry added vitamins, vitamin D, calcium boosters presented prominently on front-of-pack labelling. Nutrition researchers have repeatedly noted that the addition of micronutrients to a high-sugar processed product does not make that product healthy. It makes it more marketable. The tactic is known within the food industry as nutritional window dressing. The vitamin is real. Its protective effect does not neutralize the sugar load that comes with it. Müller Little Stars are frequently marketed around portion control and lunchbox convenience. But when a product's primary appeal to children is its engineered sweetness, and its primary appeal to parents is a vitamin claim on the front, independent experts argue something important is being obscured. What comes next is a product most British parents consider healthy almost by default. That assumption, experts say, is exactly what makes it so dangerous. 4. Froobs. Froobs. Almost every British parent knows them. The squeezable tubes, the bright colours, the playful branding. They are one of the most efficient food delivery systems ever designed for children. And that efficiency is the problem. Froobs are manufactured by Yoplait, the same corporation behind Petit Filous. They are marketed relentlessly around school lunchboxes, sports activities, and on-the-go convenience. They are positioned as a fun, practical way for children to get their dairy intake. But consider how Froobs are consumed. A child doesn't sit and eat slowly. A child squeezes the tube. The product is consumed rapidly, in a semi-liquid form, requiring no chewing. Nutritionists note that the speed at which Froobs are consumed bypasses many of the satiety signals that slower eating would trigger, signals that tell a child they've had enough sugar. The tube is empty before the body registers what it received. A standard Froobs tube contains approximately 8 to 9 grams of sugar in a 47g portion. For a standard pack of 3 tubes, the format most parents buy that represents a potential cumulative sugar load of up to 27 grams from a product category the parent has mentally filed under healthy snack. Action on Sugar has named children's yogurt tubes specifically in its campaigns, highlighting misleading health marketing in children's food. Frubes have appeared in those analyses. There is also the question of flavouring. The strawberry or raspberry flavour in a Frubes tube does not come primarily from strawberries or raspberries. It comes from fruit concentrates, flavouring compounds, and in some formulations, what the label describes only as natural flavouring. Yoplait presents Frubes as containing no artificial colours, flavours, or preservatives. And yet the product, in independent nutritional analysis, consistently ranks among the highest sugar items in the children's dairy aisle. The packaging doesn't look harmful. That's precisely what makes it so. If Frubes alarmed you, then what's coming next will be even more uncomfortable, because the next brand built its entire empire on a promise it may not be keeping. 3. Cheeky Monkey Yogurt Pouches. Look carefully in the yogurt aisle of Tesco, Asda, or Sainsbury's, and you'll find them own-brand children's yogurt ranges positioned specifically as value alternatives. Cheeky Monkey and equivalent own-brand children's pouches from major UK supermarkets represent a category that has expanded dramatically over the past decade. They are cheaper. They are presented in the same cheerful, cartoon-heavy packaging as premium brands, and they are often assumed by parents to be a reasonable, safe alternative. But the formulation of many own-brand children's yogurt pouches raises concerns that premium brands, facing more public scrutiny, have at least partially addressed. Independent nutritional testing of own-brand children's yogurt pouches has frequently found higher concentrations of added sugar than branded alternatives, greater reliance on fruit juice, concentrate as a sweetening mechanism, and in some cases, thickening agents and stabilizers, carob bean gum, pectin, modified starch that are not commonly associated with naturally fermented yogurt. The pouch format itself compounds the concern. Like the squeezable tube, a pouch encourages rapid, unregulated consumption. There is no bowl, there is no spoon, there is nothing slowing a child down. Perhaps most troubling is the marketing language applied to these products. Phrases like made with real fruit, natural ingredients, and suitable from 6 months appear on products that contain sugar levels far exceeding what independent health guidance would recommend for infants and young toddlers. The label says real fruit. The sugar content tells a different story. These are the products that reach families for whom price is a genuine concern. Families who trust that a product sold by a major British supermarket bearing cheerful packaging and health-adjacent language must have passed some threshold of appropriateness for their child. That trust is being exploited, and we're not even at the worst of them. The next brand is one that has spent decades telling British parents it is practically a health food. What the company hasn't told you is what's buried in the ingredients list. 2. Petit's Phyllis. If there is a single brand that has most effectively shaped British parents' perception of children's yogurt as a health food, it is this one. Launched in the UK in the 1980s, Petit's Phyllis has been marketed for 4 decades around the language of growth, goodness, and nutrition. The small pots, the friendly branding, the persistent association with calcium, with strong bones, with doing right by your child, for an entire generation of British adults. Feeding a child Petit's Phyllis was simply what good parents did. Here is what those decades of marketing did not tell you. A standard 47g pot of Petit Phyllis strawberry fromage frais contains approximately 8.5 grams of sugar. In the context of the NHS's daily free sugar guidance for young children, that single pot presented as a healthy dairy snack can represent between 40 and 50% of an entire day's recommended intake. Action on Sugar, in its 2015 report on children's yogurt and fromage frais, named Petits Philus specifically, noting that several varieties contained more sugar per 100 grams than Coca-Cola. That comparison caused a brief media outcry at the time. Yoplait reformulated some products in response. But campaigners argue the reformulation was insufficient and that the core problem, a high-sugar product dressed in health food language, was never truly resolved. The product also relies on fruit juice, concentrate as a primary sweetener in several variants, a formulation choice that food labeling campaigners have repeatedly argued is designed to obscure the true sugar contribution in a format that sounds more natural than added sugar. The marketing language around Petit Philus has continued to evolve whilst the sugar content remains largely consistent. Front-of-pack claims have emphasized vitamins, calcium, and natural dairy content. What they have not emphasized, ever, is that the sweetness your child experiences is not coming from the fruit, it is coming from concentrated sugars and flavouring compounds that the brand has no obligation to specify. 4 decades, millions of British children, and a health halo built on marketing language rather than nutritional reality. But there is one brand that has gone further. One brand whose approach has attracted scrutiny from nutrition researchers, regulatory bodies, and independent food campaigners in a way that places it at the very top of this list. 1. Activia Kids, Danone Children's Range. Danone is not just a food company. It is a company that has built its entire identity around the language of science, health, and gut well-being. And, in the children's category, through its Activia Kids range and associated children's dairy products, it has applied that strategy with remarkable effectiveness. The Activia brand globally is synonymous with gut health, with beneficial bacteria, with the idea that food can be medicine. In the UK, Danone's children's products have inherited that scientific halo, creating a consumer perception that these products are not merely acceptable for children, but actively beneficial. The reality, according to independent nutritionists and food policy researchers, is considerably more complicated. Firstly, the probiotic claims. Danone has faced significant regulatory scrutiny across Europe regarding probiotic health claims. The European Food Safety Authority has rejected multiple Danone applications to make specific health claims about their bacterial cultures, finding that the evidence submitted was insufficient to support the claims being made. In the UK, the Advertising Standards Authority has also investigated Danone's marketing language on multiple occasions. A product is not a medicine. A marketing claim is not a clinical outcome. But the language Danone uses in and around its children's range consistently blurs that line. Secondly, the sugar content. Danone's children's yogurt products, including those marketed specifically to young children and toddlers, contain sugar levels that independent analysis places comfortably in the high category. Some varieties contain flavouring compounds, concentrated fruit sugars, and thickening agents. Several have been flagged in independent UPF classification systems. The contradiction is stark. A brand whose entire commercial proposition is built on health and science, producing a children's product that nutritionists classify as ultra-processed and high in sugar. Thirdly, and this is perhaps the most disturbing element of all, Danone has invested heavily in research institutions, academic partnerships, and scientific outreach. Critics, including some food policy academics, have raised concerns about the potential for corporate funding to shape nutritional research narratives in ways that are difficult for consumers to detect or interrogate. This is not unique to Danone, it is an industry-wide concern. But given the company's explicit positioning around science and health, the conflict is arguably more acute. Parents who reach for Danone's children's products are frequently doing so because they believe they are making the scientifically informed choice. They believe the brand's own framing. They trust the language of probiotics, of cultures, of gut health. What independent researchers argue is that the science-adjacent branding is performing a function that the actual product cannot, and that the family paying a premium for what they believe is a health-optimized children's yogurt may in fact be buying a high-sugar, ultra-processed product in more credible packaging. Danone is not alone in what the food industry does, but it has done it with more sophistication and at greater scale than almost any competitor in the children's dairy category, and that is why it sits at the top of this list. 7 brands, 7 sets of ingredients, 7 examples of a food industry that has discovered something more powerful than nutrition, and that is the language of nutrition. None of these companies are required to lie to you. The system does not demand that of them. What the system permits, what UK food labelling law continues to allow, is a careful management of emphasis. A front-of-pack claim here, a vitamin mentioned there, a no artificial colours badge, a cartoon character at child eye level, and on the back, in small print, a list of ingredients that tells a different story. What can you do? Flip the pot, turn the packet over. Look at the total sugar per 100 grams, not per serving. Anything above 10 grams of sugar per 100 grams in a product marketed to young children is a product that deserves your scrutiny. Look for fruit juice, concentrate in the ingredients list. It is sugar under a more palatable name. Look for the phrase natural flavouring and understand that it tells you almost nothing about what has actually been added. And question the health claim on the front. Not because all health claims are false, but because a health claim is a marketing decision, not a regulatory guarantee. The companies on this list are not unique in what they do. They are simply among the most effective at doing it. Your child's palate is being shaped right now by the products they eat repeatedly, by the sweetness levels they come to expect, by the flavours that become their definition of normal. The food industry understands that better than almost anyone. It is time that parents did too.